DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
I'm bitter and twisted. I'm warped and demented. We win the toss on a pitch that looks like a billiard table. We have four seamers. It's at home, the Basin Reserve. We're coming off a historic series win against India. And we lay another turd like that. Getting beaten inside 3 days is shameful. Rahul Patil was at the Basin Reserve for us. Mate, we both watched a lot of really bad cricket from the Black Caps, our men's national team, over the years. That defeat has got to be as ugly as any ever. You agree?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And it makes it worse when it comes at home. You know, we've seen such defeats when New Zealand travels overseas. We go to Sri Lanka, we go to India, but we almost have that feeling that, yeah, that's fine, we accept that. But when we come back home and we get decimated, annihilated by a team within 3 days and some, it's just not unacceptable. And look, yeah, we did win the toss and we did bowl well to start off with. But remember, at Christchurch, they were 71 for 4 and they got to 499.
That's right.
At the Basin, they were 43 for 4 and we let them get to 280 because once again, Ollie Pope and Harry Brook took charge and we had no answers for them.
The bowling,
2 matches in a row now, we've let...
The bowling is wayward. You know, when you're conceding 5 runs and over in a test match, that's fine for T20, but it's not for test cricket. We'll get back to that, though. I want to talk about the batting, which was limp, it was soft, and we were communicating through this test match. Look, their bowling is good, but it is not so unplayable. We're just going out to soft dismissals. You know, no concentration, no application, no one digging in. Why not?
Look, I've watched this team for the last 3 years, and I know they're better than this. But it comes back to that fact that I stated right at the start of this series, that we are getting caught up in this whole baseball theory of playing the game quick, and we're getting caught up by trying to match them pace for pace. You know, this game's finished with 2 days and change left. You know, what was the hurry? The worst thing I saw, and look, I love Rachin to bits, but yesterday at the Basin, it had started drizzling. Lunch was 5 minutes down the line, and he has a waft at one outside the off stump. It's just, you cannot have excuses for this. This is just plain poor cricket. And I know you love your stats, Marty, so I've got a stat for you. In the first innings, New Zealand batted for 34.5 overs, and in the second innings, they lasted 54.2.
Yeah.
That's a total of 89.1 overs across both innings, which is less, 5 balls less
than
the entire day's play.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, but you cannot win Test cricket like this. Test cricket will show you no mercy if you don't have the technique or the temperament for it.
No, and clearly, as we demonstrated in India, we do, but for some reason it has just been completely lacking in this. What frustrates me is there's no jeopardy, there's no accountability, there's no consequence. These same guys are all going to be picked to play in Hamilton again. Blundell scoring a century. Oh, that books his ticket, does it? Well, it was garbage time runs. Yes, you got a century. Fantastic for you, and you can put that in your locker and everything else, but it was meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. It's like, the Warriors been down 28-0 at half-time and then all of a sudden losing the game 35-26. Oh, we won the second. No, we didn't win the second half. We lost the match. It's so frustrating, isn't it? Because I want to ask you about, is that Indian series now an outlier? You look at what else this men's team has done this year. The T20 Cricket World Cup, oh, Lord. I mean, okay, that's been quickly forgotten. Sri Lanka. And this is the problem. These 2 tests against England, so quickly forgotten. Tom Latham, I'm sorry for raving at you. Tom Latham, I watched him at the post-match presser. Oh, we've got a couple of days to think about, we'll get on, we've got another chance. Okay, rather than think about have another chance, how about you sit there and actually apologise to all the fans for putting out a performance like that first?
Yeah, I completely agree. That India series with every passing game now is becoming an outlier in every sense. The hype for this series, we won 3-0 in India, was through the roof. You got full public, paying public, coming to watch this team at the Hagley Oval in Christchurch. The Basin was packed to the rafters.
Mm-hmm.
And what a performance have we dished out for them? Absolutely zilch. Another thing that comes to mind is, when we won 3-0 in India, now it gives everybody fodder to say that that was a fluke. That was just something of an aberration. The rule is that we are not a good cricket team. And the truth is somewhere in between. We
Somewhere in
are
between.
actually a better side.
Yeah, we're a better
we
side
are
than
actually-
this, but we're not as good as that. I think that's quite clear, isn't it? Somewhere in the middle is where we are.
Yeah.
But this is home conditions against a good, but it's not an outstanding England side, but we're making them look like they're world beaters.
Yeah, and I did ask Gus Atkinson at the press conference, and I said to him, what do you think is the difference between the bowling attacks? Why? Because remember, I was the one who said, I don't think this attack is good enough to pick up 20 wickets. So I asked him.
They've had 40 in the last 2 tests, mate.
Yeah, and I asked him, and I said, what do you think is the difference between? And he just put it down to, he said, the way our batters are putting pressure on the New Zealanders, that is creating the collapses that New Zealand is having, because they've got no answers for our batters. And once we pile on the runs and play the game at the pace that which we play, he said New Zealand have fallen short. Now that tells me that Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes have actually outthought, Tom Latham and Gary Stead in planning. They came here with a plan. They're executing brilliantly. We are just going with the motions and thinking, oh, we'll try this, or maybe I'll try that.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, there's no consequence, because I'm still getting paid. I'm still staying in the 5-star hotel. I'm still living in luxury. I'm still going to get picked for the next game. Okay, here's a couple of really fundamental things about Test cricket. Bowling, tie up an end, frustrate the batsman. You don't have to be going for the middle stump ball every time you bowl. One guy up the other end frustrates, and so that then the batsman has to start. I mean, we're not even doing that. When it comes to batting, what about some guy blunting the ball, just being a wall, standing out there and batting for a couple of sessions to get them tired? We're not even doing that. We're playing Test cricket like we think it's a T20 match.
Yeah, you made a good point about Tom Latham's century. He scored 115 of 102 balls.
Blundell,
but
sorry.
What I would have, Tom Blundell. And what I would have liked to see, though, is Tom Blundell scoring 50 of 250 balls and actually taking this game into the fourth day.
That would have been heroic.
And I know
heroic if he'd done that.
That would have really made me happy to see that fight, to see that application, to see that temperament, and to see that doggedness that you need in international sport. Yes, as you said, he scored 115 and he played well. He was dropped on 0, but he played well after that, made his own luck. And he's booked his ticket now, not just for the next test, but probably for the next 10 tests that New Zealand plays.
Now, look,
and the other question.
Sorry, keep going.
And the other question I have is, when did our batting stocks become so rich that we can actually afford to bench a man of the series from the last test series that we played in India for 2 consecutive test matches? Now, we've had failures in Christchurch, and that should have taught us something, and we should have picked Will Young.
That's called consequence.
But we don't.
Yeah, you fail, you lose your place, and then you have to fight to get it back. And maybe a guy like Devon Conway needs to go back to domestic 4-day cricket. Look, Craig Cumming did a brilliant thing for us last week. I don't know whether you've seen it. It's on our YouTube channel, the DSPN.
Yes.
He broke down the failing technique of Devon Conway at test level. Now, Conway's a brilliant white ball batsman. We know that he's got $1 million contract at the IPL, but something is really wrong with his technique. His weight is all wrong. His feet are all wrong. And look, if Craig Cumming can sit there, as great a coach as he is, but he can pick this, why aren't the myriad of New Zealand coaches and experts helping this team able to sort that out? But Conway will play again in Hamilton. We know this. It's the same as Southee. I mean, again, look, just because you have a great career, it doesn't mean that you have to get the farewell tour. This guy does not deserve his place in the team at the moment on merit. But again, he'll get picked. It's so frustrating.
I agree. And I texted you yesterday and I said, sometimes I feel, international sport requires a bit of mongrel in you. You need to have difficult conversations and you need to tell players, show them the mirror. That is the job of the captain and the coach, is to show the team a mirror and say, ask all of them and say, guys, do you think that what we dished out in Christchurch and at the Basin is a true reflection of what a New Zealand national cricket team should be dishing out? And I wonder if anybody has these conversations. And for all they might be, but we don't know because we never get told anything that happens.
No, what we get told is,
inside the closed door.
We'll take the learnings and we'll move on to the next one. Well, before you move on to the next one, some of us are going to sulk for a little bit because it's embarrassing watching you play and it's really disappointing. And look, I don't want that Indian series to be an outlier. It's not a fluke. I've mistakenly over a couple of social medias. I was angry yesterday. I labelled it. It's not a fluke. You don't win 3 test matches by fluke. But what it is it's like Greece winning the Euro 2004 football championships. It all came together at the right time. That's brilliant. You've always got that. But you also need to go on from that. You can't keep looking at that. It's like the White Ferns. They've been rubbish all year. They win the T20 World Cup. That's fantastic. I'm delighted for you. But you can't hang your hat on that for the next 12 months. You've got to actually win the next game and the one after that. That's what champion teams do. And at the moment, we're getting pantsed. And it's not good enough, mate.
Yep. And you're right, that euphoria that was created in this country. Look, as long-time black cap supporters and tragics of New Zealand cricket, it is difficult. How do you get behind a team that is so inconsistent? We know they can play well, as we saw in India, but they need to find some sort of medicine to get rid of this disease called inconsistency, which is
complacency. I call it complacency is what it is. And it's complacency by the fact that there is no jeopardy, that there is no consequence to you not playing well. Every other job in the world, if you don't perform, there's a consequence, apart from this.
And the best excuse that we get given is that our pool of players is very low. Well, if your pool of players is so low, how come you have the audacity to keep Will Young out? He was man of the series, literally the best batter in your 11 in India when you won your most historic series ever. And you benched him for the last 2 games. So, yeah, I just can't get my head around a lot of things at the moment. But, yeah, the frustration is valid. The disappointment is valid. And, hopefully they'll turn up in Hamilton and give us a performance to be proud of. I'm not hoping that they're going to win, but at least put a performance that, we can be proud of.
Gone.
DSPN.